Hello there guys, on this video we are going to be looking at one of the problems which is happening quite a lot at the moment, and this is where you can buy and you can sell, and then all of a sudden you can't do either of those things, and no matter what you try it will not work. So sometimes on PancakeSwap, when you try and buy and sell, in fact I'll go in and do it now. If we open up PancakeSwap, sometimes when you try and buy something it gives you the estimate here. And if the estimate is at the top, that can cause a problem. And I have made videos about this before. You simply need to take the last number off and change it. So that's the way you solve that problem. But this isn't to do with that, and it's not to do with slippage. It's an error in the code, and it's happening more and more often with new developers basically doing a copy and paste job on somebody else's contract. So we're seeing this the most on SafeMoon clones. And I want to explain exactly what causes it and a possible fix for devs. Now, when this happens, normally the contract works great for the first few minutes, or maybe the first few seconds if it's really popular. And then at a certain point, you cannot buy or sell no matter what you do. Now, from an investor point of view, you probably think you've been scammed. You think that this is a rug pull, or the dev has done something to prevent you from buying and selling. Now, from a dev point of view, you're thinking, what the hell's happened? It worked a minute ago. Why isn't it working now? I suddenly look like a scammer. It's incredibly frustrating. So I want to get into what causes this and give you a possible solution. Right, this is SafeMoon, and if we bring up the contract, this is the code for SafeMoon in here. I've copied this over to Remix so we can see it a little bit more clearly because it's all nicely coloured for us. And inside here, SafeMoon has the ability to take a 3% fee that is automatically added to the liquidity pool, and it's this that causes the problem. So what's happening here is when someone makes a transaction, 3% of that is earmarked for the liquidity pool, but it doesn't go there yet. That builds up within the contract itself. It's like the contract's got its own wallet, and that 3% fee goes into that wallet and from various sales until it reaches a certain amount. And once it's reached that amount, it is then spent on the liquidity pool. So it becomes the liquidity provider. So that's the way that works, and there is a function inside SafeMoon that does that. It counts up those fees, and if it hits a certain threshold, it creates liquidity with it. So that's what happens. Now, the reason that this fails is when you first launch a fork of SafeMoon, say if you've cloned this, even a carbon copy, you've just cut and paste and you've released it as your own. What happens is, when the first few transactions go through, that fee is not enough for it to trigger the money being sent to the liquidity. So that's not happening, and people can buy and sell perfectly okay. But as soon as it reaches that threshold, every time there's a transaction, it tries to send the money to the liquidity pool, and it can't. And the reason that it can't, I'm going to search for the function because there's a lot of code in here and we'll get to it a lot quicker. So the function is called swap and liquefy, and as you can see here, at the moment it's set to true. We can set it to false, or we can set it to true. So if I go on down through the code, what I'm looking for, it'll be around here somewhere, is an address. Let's do another little search. So swap and liquefy. Here it is. Okay, so it's this address right here. This is the address of the Uniswap router where that exchange takes place, and those fees are turned into wrapped ether and put into the liquidity. So that's kind of where all that happens, and this is the address where that takes place. Now, on the SafeMoon contract, that is hard-coded in. You cannot change this after deployment. Now, unfortunately, that address will not work with the current version of Uniswap and the routers that you would be using to create your liquidity pool. There is a different address, which I've got right here. So this is the uniswap.org website. I'm at docs v2 smart contracts with a hyphen router 2. And inside here, if you just scroll down a little way, you can find, where is it? The address, here it is. So it's this address here. This is the one that you should be sending it to. Now this address works on the mainnet and it also works on test nets as well. So I really encourage you to test before you try and do this, because copying this address, I'll just copy it to my clipboard and then popping over to here and pasting it in like that, and then redeploying this SafeMoon clone with that new address in will not work. I don't know why, I wish it did. That would be nice and simple, but it isn't as simple as that. What we've got going on at the moment is a load of new developers are coming over to here. It's not that hard to start creating a token, but there are elements that they're missing out. And one of those elements is the integration between their contract, their token, and Uniswap. There's a lot of stuff that you need to do there, and it's a lot more than just copying and pasting this address. So that's the way it should be, but there's other stuff you need to do too, which I'm learning, but I don't quite understand yet. So every time I try to make a token that has a fee that is taken and put into liquidity, and I test it on the test net, it doesn't work because I haven't learned how to do that. I'm going through tutorials at the moment to try and discover how to do it. So I've got some really good ideas for tokens that I really want to get out there. So that's why this is breaking. Now, from an investor point of view, there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot get your money back out if this is what is causing you not to be able to buy and sell. If you've already bought some tokens and some of your money is in there, you can't sell them. All you can do is hopefully get in touch with a dev and tell the dev how to fix this problem so that you can get your money back. So I'm going to show you how you do that. And obviously from a dev point of view, I'm going to show you how you rescue this. So this is hard coded in. You cannot change that. And if you did, it would not be enough. But what you can do, I've still got the this open. So this is the contract for SafeMoon. So if you've deployed a copy of this contract and you've not renounced ownership, then there is something you can do. So go over to Write Contract. In here, you need to click on Connect to Web3, and then this will go green. And then find the code for swap and liquefy, which is in here somewhere. Where are we? That's it. There it is. So this is the one. So it's not always number 13. It's in different places depending on what functions you've got in your contract. But if you've got just a carbon copy of SafeMoon, it probably will be. So we've got set, swap, and liquefy enabled, and you want to switch this off. Now, one of the things that I stumbled in today that I didn't realize is you have two options on these booleans. You have true and you have false. Anything else that you type in here will be treated as true. So if I type number 1, that's true. If I type 0, that's not false, which it is in other languages, and that's tricked me. And also any other word that you might use for false doesn't work. It has to be the word false, and even more than that, it's got to be like this, because this will be classified as true. Anything that is not false in all lowercase is classed as true. So if you just put some random word in here, some numbers or anything else, or even the word false capitalized, those are all true. This one is false. So normally, obviously, you would just use the word true or the word false. But I did stumble into that today and it quite surprised me. So I thought I'd better bring it to your attention. I don't know why I used a capital, but there you go. So you'd need to do that and then click on Write. And then if you are connected to Web3 and you are the owner of this particular contract, then that's going to turn off the swap and liquefy enabled function. Now that is the function that looks at the amount of the fees that have added up, sees if they have or have not hit a certain threshold, and if they're at that threshold or above, it's going to try and add that money to the liquidity pool. So when this is switched on to false, it will not try to do that. So it's not going to try and do it. And this means that the people that have bought your token, once again, will be able to buy and sell. So anyone who's got money money trapped in your token is going to be able to get it out. So that's once you've gone past that threshold, that's the only way that I'm aware of that you can rescue this. There's no way you can go and change that address or anything else within the contract after it's been deployed. Now, if you are going to do a clone of SafeMoon and you work out how to connect to Uniswap and all of that kind of stuff, and it all works great, I would strongly recommend that you create a function that enables you to change this this address once it's been deployed, rather than it just being hard-coded in there. So that's what's going on. So if you thought you'd been scammed, and you were saying, I could buy and sell, lots of other people were buying and selling, and then after a certain amount of time, all of a sudden it would not work, this is probably what's happened. And if you are a dev and you're thinking, I released my contract, it was working perfectly fine, people were buying and selling it, everything was going well, and then nobody was buying and nobody was selling, and I tried to buy and sell it myself and I couldn't, and you didn't know what was broken, that's what's causing it. And obviously, as that money is building up at the beginning, it's not enough to trigger that function, and it's only when that function gets triggered that the problem happens. So that's it. That's what causes this problem. It's all down to this address right here. But as I said before, it's not just a matter of switching out the other one for this one. I wish that worked, but unfortunately on my own tests it seems that it doesn't. So there is a lot more involved with the idea of connecting your token to Uniswap, so that when you send when this fills up and this function triggers and it starts to send that wrapped ether over to Uniswap, it's going to create your liquidity pool for you. Now, this never used to be a problem, because the address that's hardwired into SafeMoon was the version 1 of the liquidity pool. So when you go to PancakeSwap now, you can see there's a version 1 and a version 2. And if we go on here, you'll see that there is money in version 1, quite a lot, 127,000, and there's also a little bit of money in version 2. Now, this is SafeMoon, and SafeMoon is hardwired to put liquidity into version 1. That's what that code does. So this is huge, whereas obviously a new liquidity pool has been created for version 2 as well, which has got about $500 in it. Now, about 2 weeks ago, you could create liquidity in the V1 pool for PancakeSwap on a new token that you'd released. But now you can't. They've been migrating from version 1 to version 2 over the past couple of weeks. And now if you release a new token, you can only create liquidity in V2, not in V1 at all. Now that bit of code that's inside SafeMoon, if you've just deployed that, then it's trying to create liquidity on V1, and that doesn't exist, and also it won't let you create it. Whereas previously, before all this was a problem, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that code in the contract would create the liquidity if there was none there. But it can't do that, because we can't create a V1 anymore. That might not be correct. It could be that you had to create that liquidity first of all, and then it would recognize it and it would add it to it. But there's a few things going on, and there's also some problems with the deployment of copies of SafeMoon as well, where a lot of people are struggling with that. And to get around that issue, you have to set all your taxes to 0, you have to turn off the swap and liquefy, and various other things as well. Then you can finally enable these things to deploy. Now, one final thing I'll say before I go, from a dev point of view, if you are copying these contracts and you don't really know what you're doing, then you're trying to sprint before you can walk. Now, normally that wouldn't be a problem, and it also wouldn't be a problem if you were doing all this on the test networks. There are plenty of them available for you to do that. But what makes it a problem is that when you deploy something on the Ethereum network, on the blockchain, the people that invest in that are losing their money. And this is where it becomes a problem. You're not trying to scam them, but through lack of your own education as to how these things work, mistakes are being made and it's costing people real money. And that's not good. It's not good at all. So I was trying to run before I could walk. What I've now realized is I don't know as much as I thought I knew. So I'm going back to baby steps. I'm going back through the tutorials that I've already done. I'm going back to the beginning of the course that I've already completed, and I'm making sure that I nail this and I learn this stuff so that my mistakes don't cost other people money. That is so important. So what I've been doing over the past few days is just focusing my efforts on the test networks as opposed to being on the live network. So I'm not in the blockchain at the moment with any of my current tokens that I've been working on. I'm doing all of them on the test networks. So that's what I recommend that any other devs do. It's not that hard to just copy some, put it in Remix and redeploy it and create your own token. You don't really need any programming skills. I've got in-depth knowledge of PHP, MySQL, a little bit of JavaScript, HTML5 and those kind of things because I come from a web development background. So although Solidity, which is what we're using to create this, is new to me, it's quite familiar. So I feel like I've already got a bit of foundation upon which I'm building. But the more I'm getting into it, especially this situation with connecting with Uniswap and the liquidity pools and all that kind of thing, it is a bit more complicated than I'd originally anticipated. And I have realized I've got to slow down. I've got to take it one step at a time and make sure I test everything before I accidentally scam people out of their money by having it trapped in my contract. Now, one very, very last thing. When you look at a contract, what a lot of people do, especially some of the more genuine developers, and I include myself in this, what we do is once we've created a contract and everything's up and it's all going great, is we will renounce ownership. So that's down here. There's just a button you can click on right here, and that stops you from being able to use these functions that are set to owner only. So it gives people that might want to invest in your token a little bit of peace of mind. They're thinking the developer can't fiddle with this, I'm not going to get scammed. But if you have renounced ownership of a token whilst it was working fine, and then because of that liquefy function, it's no longer working, there is nothing you can do about it. The people's money is going to be locked in there and they won't be able to buy and sell. And I do believe as well, you probably can't get your liquidity out. So that means there's going to be a lot of stuff just trapped in that contract and lost forever. Now, I will say before I shut down, I'm new to this. I'm learning as I go. I'm trying not to make mistakes and certainly trying not to make ones that cost other people money. But I could have said some things that aren't strictly correct simply because I don't know any better. So if you know anything at all that I've said in this that is wrong or is not the whole truth, then you can expand on it and help people to expand their knowledge a little bit, then please do leave a comment and let my viewers know. So if I've said anything that isn't exactly right, then please do leave a comment on that. Or if there's anything that I've left a little bit open-ended and you can expand on it a little bit to help people, then I'd really appreciate that you put a comment on the video and do that. And if you are new and you're watching this and you notice there are some comments, make sure you read through them just in case I did get something wrong and somebody else has corrected me. If I made a serious error and someone does manage to correct it, I will pin their comment to bring it to your attention. So there we go, guys. That's what happens when you cannot buy or sell on PancakeSwap, even though a few minutes ago you could. It's incredibly frustrating. It's not a scam. It's just a mistake. Now, when a dev does this, don't think they're just copying a contract, slapping it on Remix, redeploying it, and they're not doing anything at all to try and learn. Bear in mind that most of the tutorials that these new developers are working through tell you to do exactly what they're doing, because when those tutorials were made, even courses that people are paying for, the instructions that they're giving were correct at the time. So if you did that stuff at the time, it would work. But people doing that stuff now, it's not working because things have changed. We've changed over from V1 to V2 on the liquidity on PancakeSwap. So all of the tutorials that these devs are going through to try and learn how to add liquidity automatically, if they were created before V2 existed, then there's a good chance that those steps that they are diligently following to try and create genuine great tokens for you guys, there's a good chance that it's just wrong advice and they're doing it with the best of intentions, and when it breaks, they don't know why it's broken because they did everything they were told. So please bear in mind, if your money is trapped in a contract, don't just report the person as a scammer or anything like that. It could be a very genuine dev who's trying to get good tokens out there. They followed a little bit of out-of-date advice because it's hard to get advice that is right up to date on these programming languages when they move forward so quickly. And they are going to be gutted that it's happened. So do bear that in mind. But my sympathies are with you if you have money trapped in a token and you can't buy and sell. If you have access to the dev, then get in touch with them and tell them that if they turn that function off, this one right here, they set it to false, then the people that have money trapped in will at least be able to get it back out. So that is, as far as I'm aware, the only possible way you can get your money back. So I wish you all the best and good luck, and be very careful with your investments, because if it smells like a scam, it's a scam. And if it don't smell like a scam, it's probably a scam anyway. And if it's not a scam, it might accidentally be a scam. The chances are you're going to lose your money. You take care. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.